Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds, a Thursday night live edition where we're going to be concentrating on the most common bird songs. I called this a brush up on bird songs for the spring edition because birds are really starting to kick in singing right now. We're going to talk about that in depth tonight. So hopefully you'll stick with us through the program. First off, we always welcome everybody in. And we ask if you're new to the program, you've not done this before, if you would, and if you comment, if you would let us know in the comment what you would like to be known as, because your usernames don't usually tell me much. But if you want to be your first name and where you're from, city and states, what most people drop in there, or area, Northeast Louisiana, wherever, things like that. That helps me whenever I'm answering questions to try to address to you where you are when you're asking a question like that. So really appreciate you joining in with us tonight. This is people are jumping in right away. My name is Mark McKellar, and I am along with my wife Melanie. Lean over, say hi. She doesn't like the camera very much. So we are the owners of Backyard Bird Center in Kansas City. I'm a wildlife biologist who's studied birds for over 40 years now. And education is my thing. I found my business on education. I ran nature centers for a living. I've been a field biologist. I've been an educator. And all of it surrounded with nature, of course, but birds being the emphasis of what I do. And YouTube has just been giving me such a great avenue to teach and spread my knowledge about birds. And hopefully you guys learn things and gain a greater appreciation for them. And yes, and it is Mark's Backyard Birds, and we do talk a lot about backyard birds. But we also, one of my goals is to get you out beyond your backyard and to go for bird hikes, city parks, around area lakes and grasslands and everything to expand your bird world. So we cover all topics, and right off the bat, if you like what's going on, please give us a like, a share, let your friends know about us. If you're a member of a garden club or a bird club somewhere, you'll share our information with them, so more people will hopefully discover us. How YouTube works is the more you guys like us, the more you comment and the comment sections, things like that. YouTube says, "Hey, people like this program. We're going to push it a little bit harder," and so that helps us. It helps us grow, and we really appreciate you guys' efforts. So, what is the hashtag replay?
So when people watch it on the replay, they type in hashtag replay, and that just gives us more traction.
If you don't catch us live, and I know some people email me today saying I can't be on with you tonight, but I'll catch the replay. Melanie says when you're watching on replay, if you'll comment hashtag replay, then that also helps the algorithm. That's for sure. And if you're on the mobile device, there's a thing called hype, and you can hype a video that you really like, and that helps them spread it out a little bit. So those are all ways you can help us, because like I said, our brick and mortar store here in Kansas City is our main source of being able to do this. And of course, you guys contributing, like Justin just jumped in there with a gift and that helps. So you can do a bump and for whatever amount you feel like to help support the channel, keep us going. And you can also support us via our online store. So, all right, that's good for kind of giving people a chance to get in, because, like I said, some of the apps are not as fast as the other. And so, welcome Instagram, welcome TikTok over here, and YouTube and Facebook. So let's see who's checking in tonight. Boy, there's been a lot come through. All right, we'll get started. Who was it? Good evening, Mark. Tyler from St. Charles, Missouri. Hope you guys are safe in the storm. Oh, by the way, yes, that was an incredible storm. If you guys, those of you who haven't heard, there was a terrible swath of severe thunderstorms that came through Kansas City in just a really narrow band where the hail was tremendous. All four of our vehicles were damaged. Our roof was damaged. We're going to have a new roof. But we were safe inside. Nobody was hurt. Unfortunately, during the storm, I could see out a side window, and at the edge of the woods, there were a group of like 6 deer, and they were getting hit by those hailstones. And boy, they were, freaking out, but they were trying to stay under the trees. It was pretty sad. I'm going to show you a picture real quick. I'm just going to hold it up to the camera, but let's see. You can see it. Where the light's bad. You can tilt it up or down? Down? Can you?
Go slow.
Okay, just right there. You can see the hailstones in the palm of my hand. They measured about 3.5 inches. So they were baseball size. And man, they were breaking things left and right. The cars are dented like crazy. And it was a pretty bad storm. But yes, we are safe. And thank you for thinking of us there, because I know it stretched across. And Sandy Dion, I knew Sandy's on, and she was up, she lives south of Chicago, and they got hit by the same storm, but kind of the same thing. So it was this really weird little narrow band right through the country, southwest of us, all the way northeast up to the Chicago area. So that was a storm. Hello, Kurt, right down the road here in Kansas City. Hi, Kathy. Welcome in Indiana. Absolutely. Hello, Brian from Windblown, Kansas. Yeah, winds. Did you see today they're saying now we may have a blizzard here Saturday night or Sunday night? It's welcome to weather in the Midwest, guys, if you've never lived in. Hello, Rick from North Carolina. Hope you haven't had giant hailstones wherever you are, because, man, like I said, there's Sandy. Welcome in. All right. Cheryl from Kentucky. Welcome in. I need to let you take over driving because I'm terrible. How close was the tornado, Sandy? Okay, yeah. Hello from North Shore of Massachusetts. Welcome in. Jay and Carol from just north of the store here in Missouri. Kettle of 20 turkey vultures last Sunday. Beautiful sight. Yeah, we had a good bird hike on Sunday up at Smithfield Lake, and I posted the list, I think, on the community page. You want to see what birds we saw. And we had 3 turkey vultures on while we were together, and after we kind of broke up, we're headed back, and Jay and Carol said they saw that kettle of more than 20 of them. Welcome in from Massachusetts. Thanks for checking in. Hi, Zach, Central Illinois. Hi from Ohio. So I try to pronounce some of these usernames. Hi from Southeast Iowa. Welcome in. Like Lisa from Ontario, Canada. Welcome in. Leaf from Kansas City North. Hello, everyone. Welcome in, Leaf. From Jim in Bossier City, Louisiana. Welcome in. Ruth from Lee Summit.
She's in her driveway.
She's in her driveway, pulling up. She closed the store tonight, and she's just getting there. Hello from Michigan. Welcome in. Lowell, Mass here. Hello, everyone. Got a lot of Massachusetts people on tonight. Your name is Jess. Thank you for that. Yep.
Jess. Okay.
Jess from Ohio. Salisaw, Oklahoma. Thank you. Is that Dracut?
June from
Dracut, Massachusetts. Hello from Central Indiana. Hey, Ken. Saw a bluebird peeking in one of my new nest boxes this evening. Yeah, they're getting excited. Things are starting to happen. They won't lay any eggs just yet, but they're going to start scoping those places out and start taking in material. Elizabeth from Northwest Georgia. We have a barred owl visiting our backyard. That's fun. Absolutely. From Christy from Southwest Virginia. Welcome. From Southwestern Ontario. Peck that like button. I like that. Yeah, I do. Sometimes people say, let's see if we can get 100 likes tonight. That's always fun. Good evening, Sherry from New Jersey. Welcome in. You're very welcome. I love to do it. And I'm glad. I love you guys' enthusiasm. From Pele, like the great Pele. I'm assuming from Chesapeake, Virginia. Welcome. Tornado was about 7 miles. We got hail damage from baseball size hail, just like us. Well, yep, absolutely, just like us. I feel for you, Sandy. All right, Justin, gifted a membership. And this is the green tells you he's a member of the community, and there's a monthly membership, and that is, again, it's just another way to support us, and we really appreciate Justin. He gives those memberships out every so often, and hopefully people will renew them. Hello, Boston guy. Welcome in. June, are you familiar with MVBC? They're doing a woodcock walk Saturday evening. All right. Yeah, the woodcock walks are going on right now. I know here in Kansas City they've been calling. Thanks, Justin. Evening from outer Philadelphia. Welcome in. All right. Oh, please share. Good. Yep. Good. Spread the word among you guys who live near each other. South Georgia. Thanks, Walt. Of course. All right. Here is Christy from South Georgia in Virginia. From all over, you guys. So glad you're okay with these storms. Thank you. Yeah, it was a night. Serious damage. Yep. That's the biggest hailstones I've ever seen. And that's including half my life in North Carolina and here. I know sorry. I double clicked. I didn't mean to do that. Hello, Frontier. This week's bird hike. You got a lot of good foot. We had a good hike. Yeah. And it's so funny that the big open lake, we're on the Smithville Lake, which is our biggest lake. And the open lake was kind of slow just because it was getting pretty windy. So we were getting white caps and there was some boats on the lake. And so we kept having to go I tried to get this back into sheltered areas where the waterfowl will settle in back in those areas on windy days. And boy, we were late in the day and came across over a hill, and on the right there was this little pond, and it was loaded with the dabbling duck. So we got like 7 species or 6 species in that one little pond. So it's a good day. A lot of raptors on Sunday too, dude. A lot of birds flying. What time was your storm? 6:30 it hit us.
Central time.
Central time.
I don't know what time
yeah, you should be Central time, right? Yeah, ours was right about 6:30 when it really came down here. Got 3 tornadoes out of that storm. Ugh. That's damage. 80. Oh man, you had that. It's funny. Drew, who works for me, and he'll probably join in with us. He lives a half a mile north between me and the store, and the biggest hail he got in his yard was maybe a ping pong ball or two, but most of it was smaller. And just a half mile south of him we got those gigantic stones. So the storms are so unpredictable. All right, what county are you in, Zach? So snowing on and off. They're now calling for a blizzard here on the weekend. I'll believe it when I see it, but yeah. Gretchen from Pennsylvania, welcome in. Rochester, New York. From Southwest Virginia. Let's see that. Goldfinch 2 or 3. Yep, good. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Watching all the storms in the east. Used to live in New Hampshire. Glad I'm here now. Yeah, I love Santa Fe. I bird watching in your area. I love that in the winter down there. A lot of good spots in that area. And Pennsylvania, welcome in. 8 yellow finches hanging the first feeder yesterday, bright and sunny. Today, it was snowing. Yeah, it changes, doesn't it? Woodpeckers and cardinals at the feeders. Merrimack Valley Bird Club. They have a website for a list of upcoming. Okay. Yep. Anybody's on there, definitely join in on those hikes. Making sure your nesting box ready. Absolute time to get your bluebird boxes ready for sure. In the Massachusetts, when I was really warm a few days ago, the map says we're in the breeding range. Oh, yep. Yeah, those are probably birds that are just moving back in. Your birds, they may have stayed in the area, but a lot of those northern tier of bluebirds, they moved to the more southern states to guarantee open space and maybe some insects and things like that. But I always say February, especially late February, is like the transition month whenever those birds start moving back north for their nesting territory. On the nest, yes, boy. Yep, a couple blocks away. Oh, I forgot. I'm supposed to read these comments because there's some people that ask me to do that because they can't see the comments. The eagles have been sitting on the nest a couple of blocks from me. I haven't looked yet to see if the hail hurt the nest. That's certainly a possibility. I mean, if there's hailstones that size, yeah. With our high winds, how do the little birds fly into? They don't fly into the wind, that's for sure, Ellie. They have to hunker down and fly low to the ground because like a chickadee gets up in a big wind like that. Ooh, there's a book I recommend all the time, the Sand County Almanac by Aldo Leopold. In there, he said there's a chapter called chickadees can't fly against the wind, and that's they have to hunker down during the worst of it or stay really low to the ground. You're in Jersey, the west side. Oh, okay, in County Jersey. All right, the west side of Illinois is claimed and nest half built and then out not today. Tell you what, if they lay eggs this early, they'll be the earliest I've had them. I mean, I think it wasn't until about 3 years ago that we had Bluebird eggs up in this way documented even in the month of March, the end of March. Now, again, it's getting earlier and earlier. In Lowell, my Bluebirds take over. Yeah, they are very busy at the feeders in the winter months. See, they've learned to take advantage of that. I just let I heard it. Nice. Bing. All right. Well, all right, let's get to it. So we got everybody's had a good chance to get in here. We're talking about bird song. So first on the introduction to the bird song world. Who does the singing in the bird world? Almost always the males. Females do not sing very much. They now and that brings up what's the difference between a song and a call. So we're talking about the full-blown pretty songs that the birds sing. Cardinals with cheer, cheer, cheer. Pretty, 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 cheer, cheer, cheer. Versus a call note, which is the chip or a scold note where they're angry because there's a predator around, things like that. Now both sexes will do that, but very few the songbird world do the females even sing. There are some exceptions. We'll talk about a couple of those, but the males are singing, and they mainly sing early in the morning and late in the evening, but also sporadically through the day because they're saying two things. As Brian, who's on here, always likes to say, the males are saying, yo, baby, yo, baby, yo, baby. Don't you want to be my mate? And the other thing they're saying is to the other males is this is my territory and you other males better stay away because you come into my territory, there's going to be a fight. And so what they do, they get up early in the morning. The first thing they want to do is go around and establish their territory boundaries so that, let the other would-be interlopers coming in. And so you'll see them, if you will follow them in the morning, just sit out in your yard and watch where that cardinal goes or that bluebird goes or that chickadee goes when they're singing their songs. They'll usually do a circuit around your yard or wherever the center of their territory is. And that's the thing. And then, like I said, not so vigorously during the most of the day, but then again, before they go to night, they like to go to bed at night or roost at night. Sorry. They'll set those boundaries around there again. So that's the who, what, and when. A little bit of how they sing. They have a bony structure in their throats. They don't have a larynx like mammals do. They have what's called a syrinx. And it's a little bony structure that they have muscles on either side, and they can use those muscles to collapse that bony structure and raise it apart. And pushing air across that syrinx is where the sound comes from in birds. So that's how they sing. So that's the basics of what's in the singing in the bird world. And I thought tonight we would talk about some of the classic bird songs that you should know, and you guys have questions on certain ones. I can certainly try to find them because I'm going to use the Sibley Bird app, which I love this app. Let's see, let's get back to this. So let's go back here. The Sibley, again.
You got to tilt it.
Tilt it forward.
You know what? Go back to you. Now try it. Now try it. Okay, tilt it.
All right, I'm giving up. Okay, there it is. Oh, turn it tilted this way. Yeah. The Sibley Birds app, and his song recordings are from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And then, of course, we're going to talk about a little bit Merlin tonight. The app will help you identify bird songs. But whenever we talk about learning bird songs, you can play a song, and it will certainly help you learn it. But how do you remember it? I mean, I can hear the song, but mnemonics are what bird watchers have used forever to help them to remember the song. And that's what triggers in your mind. And if you watch me before and I talk about this, I always talk about it has to be what registers to you. And a classic example I always give is in Roger Tory Peterson's Field Guide, the man who invented the modern field guide. In here, it always said, for Carolina Wren, it always said, teacher, teacher, teacher. And well, no, it said tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, teacher, teacher, teacher is the Ovenbird, but tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle. And I never heard that. That my ear just that didn't work for me. And at that time, the Saturday Night Live skit of where they said cheeseburger, 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 chip, no Coke, Peppy. Well, that's what I hear when I hear a Carolina Wren, cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Now I'll say that. Then I lived a couple of years up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And of course, I grew up in the South. And whenever I was up there, and when I first started bird watching up there, we were on my first bird hike. I heard a Carolina Wren and went, wow, he really does say tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle. Whereas the more Southern dialect is what I learned. So whatever works for you to remember, just try to, there's lots, and we're going to cover several of them, but tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, or cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Let's see. I'm going to play his song real quick. All right. Here it is. And there are many different dialects in here. And like I said, they'll make all kind of different sounds. This is, you hear that? That's female chatter. That is their alarm call. Whenever, again, they sense danger. And they always compare that to running your thumb over a comb. And then, so there's lots of different vocalizations that birds can make. But this time of year, especially when they're trying to attract a mate, songs are the key. And so if you can learn songs, and one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is if you learn the basics, learn the basic songs of your backyard, and then when you start getting more serious and going out, bird watching, and want to learn bird songs out there certain songs will remind you of other ones, and you'll say, oh, that reminds me of a robin. Well, robins are in the thrush family, so it's likely that you're hearing a thrush of some type. And many like wrens, but there's other wrens will sound similar to them. Some will sound very different, but you have to start one somewhere, and that's what the idea of tonight is, to get you started with the basics if you're unfamiliar with. So, the Northern Cardinal being America's favorite songbird. I thought I would start with that to give you some songs. Most people know it by, the cheer, 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 or pretty, 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 pretty. And birds have to be different. So this male over here on this side of your street, and then the male cardinal on the other side of the street, they'll be slightly different. They try to do it because they want to stand out to the females. So let's try the classic Northern Cardinal song. And if I guarantee you that has to be familiar to you. If you haven't associated that with a cardinal, and right now the males are really singing, and they're going around the edges of their territory. So Northern Cardinal is a classic, and so one of the places to start I know, Denise, you guys up in the Northwest, unfortunately, you don't have cardinals or blue jays, but for the great part of the country, the cardinal is definitely a very common song we're hearing this early in the spring, especially. And then the blue jay. I remember years ago, I was bird watching. We had a group bird watch at one of my nature centers, and a lady on the hike said, I don't know any bird songs. I said, I bet you do. And she said, no, I really don't. I don't know any. And then we heard a blue jay. I said, what's that? She said, oh, that's a blue jay. I said, I thought you said you didn't know any bird songs. Yeah. So blue jays say their name, Jay, 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 Jay. But they can also do several other things. They can mimic, we heard them on Sunday mimicking red-shouldered hawk. I've heard them mimic red-tailed hawks. They're pretty decent mimics, but they don't that much. And then they have their bell calls and all kinds of different ones. But just start by learning the basic. The blue jay, it does say it says its name very, very loud. And as they say, they announce their presence with authority. Here we go. And they are the burglar alarms of the forest, as we call them. They get very vocal whenever there's a predator around, or a bird like a crow or something that may come to steal their eggs, or they see a hawk nearby, or a cat crossing your yard, or anything like that, or a black snake. They are very vocal and they sound it off, and other birds will come in and join them if they're trying to harass something. Birds of a feather will come to each other's aid whenever there's a would-be predator around. So. All right. And another bird that says its name. Now, this is a classic example of what is a song and what is a call. These are the black-capped chickadee on the left and the Carolina chickadee on the right. And they both do the same call. They do chickadee-dee-dee, chickadee-dee-dee. And that, they communicate back and forth with it. But when they're singing their song, the black-cap just goes, seesaw, whereas the Carolina goes Carolina versus now these guys where their ranges overlap, boy, you can get kind of funny stuff, combinations of that. But in the northern part where the range where they're more common, you definitely the seesaw call, and in the south and or to the east, the Carolina call. So. All right. And the close cousin of the chickadee, of course, is a titmice, a tufted titmouse. And their song is Peter, 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 Peter. And of course, they make some scolds and things similar to the chickadees as well. But that real rapid Peter, Peter, Peter is a very common sound in your woods. And that is one that you should learn, because they are very common right there. And then we already did the Carolina wren, the cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. And one of the things that people use, and I have a sheet that I found years ago, but this is, again, I don't know if you can see it, these are mnemonics. These are some of the classic mnemonics for bird songs, and they're common and uncommon ones on there. I mean, from least flycatchers, say chick, and there's lots of ones like that. But tonight, I was just, like I said, thought we would just cover the basic ones, and then I could answer some for you if you have that. So first up, let's go ahead. I'm going to pause here and see where we are on the messages.
Hold on. But this is where we were.
All right. Had first humming of their show up at the feeder yesterday. Walton, I think you're in Georgia, right? I think. If I remember right.
So we want to go to questions.
They're starting to get in here. That's for sure. That's it. And there's one. Do cardinals pairs ever share territories? Are these birds they share territories? They will not. Well, they'll share territories with other species, but not with other cardinals. I mean, female cardinals are as aggressive as males when it comes to running off another female cardinal in her territory. They're famous for banging into windows, chasing their reflection in window. That's getting ready to start in earnest. Males will do it. Cardinals will do it. Robins do it. Bluebirds will do it. Warblers will do it. Several birds, when they see their reflection this time of year in your side mirror or on your house, when they're getting that mirror reflection, man, they'll bang on and bang into it. They'll try to run that other cardinal or robin or whatever it is out of their territory. So yeah, but they will share territories with a chickadee. They don't mind that, but they're different species. So
this is a good one.
What is the real reason? Well, that's the mockingbirds. That is just they are a member of birds known as mimic thrushes, and they're catbirds and brown thrashers. That is their call. That is their song. That's literally what they do instead of their own. Like the ones we've been going through in the nest when they're young, and they believe even in the egg, so that they are actually imprinting on the sounds they hear around their nest. So the other birds that are singing, and they are imprinting on that. And so those are typically the songs that they start singing first off. And that also can include the doorbell. That can also include a phone ringing. It can include car horns because they are master mimics. But that is their life. That is what they do. That's what's in their genetics.
Okay, let's see. Oh, somebody's asking about the mnemonic sheet. We'll have to get that.
We will. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to scan this in for a PDF document, and we'll put it up for digital download. Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to do with that. I just found it today. I've been looking for it for a week, and I finally found it. So I have a birdhouse, and it is filled with moss and hair. Chickadee. Kathy, that's a classic chickadee nest. They use moss and they use pet hair.
Okay, so hold on. There's some people saying what they think sounds are.
Okay. I always heard chickadee say Marco Polo. I like that. Again, that's what, if you can remember, that's how you remember it. Man, that works. Keep it, because that helps you. When I was younger, my mother always said the chickadee's seesaw sound was saying, "Mommy, I love you." Again, a great way to remember it. Something that's personal. Yeah. Oh, there's Andrew's on from Cincinnati. Ohio's been working. Gotcha. Yep. Spring's creeping. Like they say, creeps north 17 miles a day. I can't think something like that. It's moving. Our first year having pine warblers. First time I heard them sing, I stopped and looked for that sound. Yes, that is whenever I'm home in North Carolina, Rick. Yep, I step out of the car and it's one of the first birds I always hear in the pines around the houses and stuff. Is that rattle of the pine warbler? Sounds like Tweety Bird to me. The first one, the cardinal. Yep.
Oh, here's another one.
Okay, whistling over a bone.
That's the Carolina Wren.
Oh yeah, yep. Brr, brr. And they do that a lot, actually. You hear that? See, my producers over here is going through the comments.
Yeah, I'm looking for more questions. So hold on. Somebody said, "Love the Marco Polo."
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, what does a goldfinch sound like?
Okay, goldfinches, and then we can pull that up. But the classic way to identify goldfinches, the quickest way, is their flight call, because they're when they're flying overhead, people think they sounds like it says potato chip, potato chip, potato chip whenever they're flying over. And I don't have what does he say? He says the potato chip
and baby, baby.
Yeah. As far as their song goes, I've never had a mnemonic for goldfinches. It's all, to me, their most famous is that potato chip call. All right, is Ruth on? Ruth may have one. Okay, let's see. Here's the American goldfinch. To me, that is a finch. And those sound, that's finch-like, that, and you hear, the more you hear it, once you get that tuned in, because especially from now, they still sing in the spring, but remember, they don't start nesting until late, like June, July. And so they get more active and singing things out, but they're still in flocks this time of year. All through the spring, you'll have a flock of them at your feeder. They're not paired off like a lot of birds this time of year, but that's that twitter of a finch's sound for sure. Yep, chickadee dee dee.
Yeah, Sandy says hers say chickadee dee dee. Somebody says potato chip. I will remember that.
You notice that you had cheeseburgers and you got potato chips. Food somehow or another registers with me. Definitely. What is the difference between a call and a song? A call is that generally those short, different. It's not as musical. How's that? That work for you? Musical are typically songs. The ones that sing. A great example again is that Carolina Wren. That chibaga chibaga chibaga. That is their song. Where that is a call. It is an alarm call. Is what that's known as. So the songs are definitely more musical.
Okay. So Andrew's asking, "Are we doing a giveaway?" You can blame it on me.
I thought we were, and then she came down. I said, "Do we need to get that open?" And she said, "No, we're not doing it." No, why?
Yesterday,
she's a producer. It was okay, guys. It was been again with the storm. And then today at the store, our register software program shut down, and we were helpless for almost an hour. And we had problems with the internet on Friday. It's been mayhem. It just different things putting out fires, and we just were not prepared, or she wasn't prepared. I thought we were going to do it, but hey, we'll get back to it next week.
Yes, we will. We'll get it figured out.
So, congratulations, you won already. You're the first winner of it. What can I do to try and bring in tons of goldfinches? I like that. I have Niger. I love goldfinches and have 4 regulars, but would be happy to have more. Well, okay. Goldfinches are flocking birds, especially in winter. They have a lot of them, tons of them. That's almost always in the winter. And it depends on where you live. The further north, those goldfinches move out of much of the northern states because of the snow cover and everything, and move to south. Like at my old house, just a few miles from here, every winter I had 100 goldfinches in my yard. I had 15 feeders, and 4 of them dedicated just to goldfinches and 3 others, and they were always on them. But about end of March, boom, they were gone. They'd be down to 15. Those 100 were gone and 15 were left. And those are my resident birds that stay here. So it's not as common to have the tons of goldfinches in the summer months, the breeding season, but in the winter, starting in the fall. We say the finch season is December through July here, being the December, January, February is when we get the big numbers of them, and then they thin out come spring. And they'll still have flocks of 15 or 20, but I've not had 100 species of flocks in the spring and summer months.
Okay, here's this one.
Eastern Towhees calls it. That is a great mnemonic.
Drink
right
your
there,
tea.
Frontier. Drink your tea. Drink your tea. The Eastern Towhee. I know the spotted towhee out west is a different song. I think it sounds kind of Wren-like almost to me, but the Eastern Towhee is a classic mnemonic. Drink your tea, and they'll just go drink. And sometimes I go drink your. Towhees are pretty funny. I love them.
Okay, there's some stuff about chickadees. When the chickadee has more D's and fewer D's in their call, what does that mean?
Yeah, there's some people say I've seen it written that is more danger. It's a larger threat. That's right, Kurt. That's exactly what when it's the D goes on longer, that's a measure of the threat that they sit there detecting. They're good burglar alarms too.
Okay, so here's one.
On a smaller scale, a single pair of eastern bluebirds have brought nesting material into 4 different nesting boxes so far this spring. Yep. Why is that? Okay, well, it's too early for them to lay eggs, but they're checking out potential nesting sites. And part of what they do this time of year is they'll pass grass back and forth, the male and the female, and they'll take nesting material in there. And sometimes they'll put a little bit in the box, but that doesn't guarantee you they're going to nest in that box. So, when we ask why, people ask me all the time, why do bluebirds choose that box over that box? And it's so hard to answer that question. But if the one that's facing east, southeast will be better than the one that's facing west and things like that. But if you've got 4 bluebird boxes close together, you're only still going to have 1 nesting pair of bluebirds, because he's not going to allow another male bluebird in that territory. So those bluebird boxes are supposed to be 100 yards apart, or that can be an exception if you got a front yard pair and a backyard pair and there's a good barrier between them. But if those males can see each other, no, they're going to fight. So my guess is that bluebird is wanting to put nesting material in all those boxes because he doesn't want another male coming around and trying to claim that. So that's probably what's going on there.
Okay, this is more about the finches.
Finches here don't seem to like. I agree.
Niger.
I don't feed Niger. I'm sorry. They don't like Niger. I don't feed Niger in my yard anymore at all. I don't find that they eat it very well. And I know it's not as nutritionally valuable to them as sunflower chips, fine chips are. I've had a pitch an uneaten Niger after it would get wet. Yes, it's millet and small, good alternative. Millet. Reason I shy away from millet in my finch feeders is because that attracts house sparrows terribly, and they'll take over, a finch feeder if it's got millet in it. Not so much. They can take over any feeder, that's for sure. But the fine sunflower chips are higher in nutritional value, and they finches love them. That's all. I feed medium sunflower chips out of the larger hole feeders, but yes, I much prefer the sunflower kernels over millet or Niger.
This isn't a question, but it's good information.
A little FYI, I received North Carolina Wildlife Magazine this week. They are saying we had a good increase in red-cockaded woodpeckers numbers. That is excellent news to hear. Rick, I'm going to have my buddy John Hammond on, who and I worked together. He's the one that started me bird watching. He's been the endangered species biologist in North Carolina. I worked extensively with red-cockaded woodpeckers, and I plan on having him on in the next week or two when I can get him on here. We're going to talk about endangered species, but a lot about the red-cockaded woodpecker and what's happening with that. So, yeah, that bird is definitely doing much, much better. That's great news. We have yellow finches that sound like they're crying or sad. I don't know who they are. Any idea? Hey, think about that one. It may just be a unique dialect in that part of where they're at. I mean, like I said, birds in the deep south versus birds in Virginia versus birds in they're dialects in different parts of the country, and that may be just the sound that they make there. I saw a crow flying overhead today with a stick. How big are they? They are big nests. We had one nest in our backyard the first year we moved in. We've been here 2 years. The first year, they built a nest right in the trees right behind our house. It's a good sized nest. I mean, it's not as big as a hawk's nest, but it is, it's every bit that length. I don't even judge how big that is, and it is sticks, and they are very secretive about their nests. Whenever when the leaves are off the trees, and they try to sneak in as best they can, but once the leaves get on there, man, they'll land in a tree nearby and another, and they'll hop around, then they'll go to their nest. They don't fly straight into their nest to draw attention to it.
Let's do this one, and then we can.
I put a whole peanut ring style feeder trying to bring in more jays. It's been over 2 weeks, but no success. Actually, had one skip it and go right to the whole sunflower seed. They'll do it. I mean, the birds are there. You can put out the best stuff that they eat all the time, and they sometimes I'll pass it by, and I can't explain it. I mean, I have so many people that feed blue jays, and it can have to do with, especially it gotten milder now, that they're finding something else, or if you're trying to compete against a good fresh crop of acorns in the fall, it might be hard to compete with them. All right, let's go put it up, get back to the songs right now. And somebody was talking about, the eastern bluebird. This is a great bird to learn because it is a thrush. And this song can remind you of a lot of other thrushes when you hear it. It's one of the prettiest. I love it. And thrushes tend to be fluty sounding. They remind you of a flute. So let's play this. And I know I'm biased because I love bluebirds, but their song. Here we go. And theirs is a squeaky, fluty sound. They're first cousins they're really fairly close related to robins. And robins again are thrushes, and we're going to play that one next. But that song, when you learn the bluebird sound, we hear them almost every morning through the windows at our house because they're set up territory around the house. They nested in our box last year, and they start. They've been singing a lot here lately. Just they slow down. They're in the middle of the day right now. They're still really just more active in the morning. But that's right. See, this one is a different song. Love the bluebirds. They are one of one of everybody's favorites. I love them. So we got these, and then the add to the American robin, and you can see the similarities, and you should be able to hear the similarities in their vocalizations, the songs. The mnemonic is cheerly, cheerio, cheerly, cheerio. I said something similar to that when I was director of the Nature Center in Pittsburgh. And my daughter, who was 4 at the time, it was in one of the classes out there by one of my naturalists, and she told me I was saying it wrong. She said, "No, Dad, it's cheerly, cheerio, cheerly." I don't know what I was saying, but she corrected me. That's what what was her name? The naturalist. Oh, she was great.
Sarah.
Sarah, she was a great teacher, and Morgan loved her. So the cheerly, cheerio.
This says cheerily, cheer up.
Cheerily, cheer up, according to this guy's mnemonic. So, and again, they're going crazy. And then when you're out in the woods and you hear a wood thrush, you go, "Oh yeah, that's real fluty. That's like a robin." Yes, they're in the same family. Or you hear of a hermit thrush in the spring. Very much like so it leads you to be able to identify more bird songs by learning the basics. And another bird that's singing right now, and I love the song. We always said conqueree. The red-winged blackbirds are starting. Their males are rolling in, and they're already starting to sing. Oh, let's see. Where are you? All right. Not very musical. The blackbirds tend not to be very musical, like compared to the thrush and the robins. This is that conqueree, and there's a lot, and there's variations in it, but that is a classic red-winged blackbird. And yes, they're showing their epaulets right now when they're out there on their territories and they're advertising. The red is showing, whereas when they're feeding at your feeder, most of the time they don't show that red. All you can see is that little yellow stripe, but the red's covered over. So that confuses people as well. So. One of the prettier bird songs, I think, in North America is this guy, the white-throated sparrow, and they're starting to sing now. They'll over the next month, you'll hear more of their songs before they head back north, especially down in our area and down south. And the famous mnemonic for that is "Oh Sam Peabody, Peabody, Peabody." It's very mournful, very slow. I'll play it here. What does he say, Melanie? For Sam?
Poor Sam Peabody.
Poor Sam Peabody, he says. And that should be in a backyard near you here in the next few weeks, depending upon where you are. But their song is really picking up. All right. And the last one I'm going to do, and then we'll get back to the questions, is one that's really on the increase. This bird, the red-shouldered hawk, it's a bird of the south, the southern swamps, and it has been expanding its range north for years. So when I moved here 30 years ago, that was a rare bird in Kansas City. Now they're nesting all the way up into Minnesota and places. It's definitely expanded, and this call is becoming very familiar to people. One, because blue jays do it, and also because the red-shouldered is a very vocal bird. So let's do this. Now, you guys down in Florida and the southern swamps, I guarantee you've heard that bird because they're all down there all across the South. And now that's becoming much more common here. I had one in the yard the other day right here behind the house. And we saw 3 or 4 of them on Sunday on the hike. It just amazes me because, like I said, 30 years ago, that was a rare bird in Kansas City. So they have really been expanding. All right.
Okay.
We'll get back to questions.
Somebody says,
"Do you use Merlin?" What a transition. Thank you very much there, Melanie. That was a good call. Yes, Merlin for you guys. and I've done whole programs on Merlin. So Merlin is an app on your phone. It is free from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And if you guys ever use Shazam, the app for identifying a song on the radio, where you could hear the song and you could open up the Shazam app and hit the button and it would listen for a few seconds to the song on the radio and then tell you what the title and the artist was name of that song. It was very, very accurate. This is Shazam for birds. Merlin identifies the bird songs, and that green button, when you open it up, you should do your settings and things where you are. You don't want to have it listening for they're trying to identify birds all over the world, because you get some wacky answers. So make sure you set it for North America or the Midwest, whatever region you want to set it for, and then you just hit that green button and let it listen, and it will record what it's hearing, and it makes suggestions. And I want to make that word clear: suggestions. Merlin makes mistakes just like every other thing does in this world. And it tells you when it makes a guess at what bird it's hearing, it puts a colored dot beside it. And if it's red, like it's like, well, we're not real confident in this, or orange is, yeah, this could be, but their confidence rating. Merlin gets fooled by certain birds, especially vireos are famous for fooling it. And actually finches are too, because like a pine siskin versus a goldfinch, it can mess Merlin up. So remember, it helps you to learn the bird song, but you need to get visual confirmation of the bird before you say, oh yeah, I had a, rufous-browed tailor bird in my backyard, which only lives in Australia because Merlin said it was. No. That you shouldn't do that. But it's great at helping you learn bird songs because it's telling you what it's hearing, and you're hearing it singing. Hopefully now it's very sensitive. Your ears might not be that great, but when it, and you look up and you see that cardinal up there in the tree and it's singing, and Merlin saying Northern Cardinal, that's great confirmation and helps you build that knowledge. So yes, I do use Merlin.
And she's talking
about it does by photo too, but you need a good shot. Yes, you can actually upload. There's several ways to identify birds by photos now on your phone. Google can do it for you, and you can load the photo up and it makes suggestions, or it'll tell you what it is, which is there's lots of help now with identifying birds.
Ellie's reminder.
Thank you, Ellie.
Let's remember to hit the like button.
Thank you.
Somebody said they've
never have seen a red-winged blackbird. That is very pretty. You've not, yeah. They love wet areas, Christy. We see them in roadside ditches where there's cattails a lot, and they'll be stretched up. They'll be singing. They'll be sitting on top of the cattails on the side of the road. Wetland areas like Los Bluffs and places where there's a lot of cattails. Red-winged blackbirds are pretty common. Oh wait, there came to eat at dusk with the cardinals. That's great. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, those birds, they know to stick to cover during the middle part of the day.
Oh, this is a good point.
When doing bird counts, do not count birds just because Merlin. Yes, thank you very much, Sandy. We've had Mary, who is an eBird reviewer, on and talking about how frustrating that is to an eBird reviewer. If it's a bird, especially if it's at all questionable, and you're supposed to document it, you're supposed to give you some documentation behind that report. A lot of people would just say, because Merlin said so, and that is not acceptable. You need visual confirmation. Thank you for reminding me of that, Sandy.
Okay, here's a question.
Can you talk a little bit about ravens and how brilliant they are? Yep. The corvid families are famous brainiacs, but any cool raven stories or info? Ravens are incredible. Unfortunately, I've never lived where ravens lived. And in North Carolina, we had them up in the northwest part of the state, up in the mountains up there. And of course, here in Missouri, we don't have ravens and things like that. But yes, they are very, very funny, and they're smart. There's stories of them remembering where they stored something years later. And of course, they're collecting shiny objects and taking them in and things like that, bringing gifts to the nest and people that befriended a raven, and the raven bringing them shiny things for them, and they'll carry spoons off. There's all kind of stories about them about ravens, and they are very, very smart birds. Absolutely. Love the YouTube. Well, thank you very much, Kathy. Yep. If you would help spread the word, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I heard my first sandhill cranes this week. I had my first red-winged blackbird at the feeder yesterday. Yeah, the sandhills are moving back north. They peak in the Platte River in Nebraska, usually around the 21st of March is when the big numbers are passing through. But there's always some that are coming through early, and always some coming through late. How to do bird counts? I always lost track of how many have you got
birds I see.
Yeah, that is, there's a trick to it. I mean, you got to practice, and when you've got a lot of numbers of birds, if you could count, envision a block around a group of them, and count the number of individuals in that block, and then try to multiply that out by however many blocks there are, and then you can get a good estimate. You see a big flock of red-winged blackbirds settle into a field, and you can't sit there and count every single one of them. So you can do that block method. That'll get you in the neighborhood of where they are, where that is. So there's tricks to I know people that go, take their fingers and go 10, like birds flying, they'll go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like that, the string of them. They get basically what 10 birds look like, and then move that out. You just have to practice a lot, Frontier.
Okay, so let's see.
Why do birds who are in the midst of migrating sing their songs while taking a break along the way? Yeah, and Lisa, that's a good question. Do they attract mates to travel alongside the breeding grounds? I don't know the answer to that. I think most of that is, the boys sowing their oats, and they're also, they're vocalizing, and they're communicating with the flock. And I don't, they're not going to defend anything, when they're in migration with each other, but they might get feisty when they're landing and start again sowing their oats, or their assertiveness there. But I don't think they travel in pairs like that. And I think that all happens on the mating grounds when they get there.
Okay, I'm trying to see if we missed any questions.
All right. Well, Melanie's trying to check over questions one last time. So we, again, thank you so much. I hope you learned something tonight. And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's more than 11,000 birds on the planet. So you know how many bird songs that is to learn. So that, right now, just start with the basics and grow with it, and use Merlin to help you. And if you can go out with somebody who knows the birds, that helps so much too. Kathy Woody says, my 14-year-old grandson, Cade, is a big birder, and he watches you weekly. Well, thank you, Cade. I appreciate that. And man, I tell you, that's a great time to get started and get really serious about birding. There are scholarships out there. There's bird watching camps in Colorado and Delaware that you can go to and meet other young birders and spend a week. There's some great opportunities in bird watching. Will mallard ducks change mates? Male mallard ducks are very promiscuous. They will mate with anything and everything. Yeah, they are. There's a lot of cheating in the duck world, I can assure you. Thank you both. Oh, absolutely, Kathy. Experience for encouragement as we learn more about birds. Hopefully your repairs from the storm will be done soon. Yeah, that's going to, over the coming weeks, we're definitely going to be hearing a lot of banging in our neighborhood. I think every house in our complex here is going to need a new roof. I mean, there's going to be so much hammering going on over the next month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah,
absolutely. Sure. You're very welcome, guys. Thank you all so much. You're very welcome. You are. What did you ducks get? Ducks get around. Absolutely, they will. A lot of mallard hybrids out there, Sandy. You're right. That explains a lot. Yeah, they are hounds, as we just say.
Yeah, and just real quick,
Frontier, there is a video from Cornell eBird that does a little tutorial on how to count. It also takes some pictures.
Practice.
It does take, it takes practice, and some people do that too. And I said pictured by accident there, but if you've got a camera and you got a big group of birds, you take a picture of it and you can blow it up later and maybe get a better idea of the number there roughly. But again, remember, we can't count every single bird individual out there, and some of those are, especially when there's big groups of birds, getting close. They don't expect you to say, and be able to count every single bird in a large flock, especially when they're moving fast. So estimates do work.
Okay, let's see. We're getting close to the bottom.
Thank you, Carol. Jay. All right.
Here's one more question.
One more question. The barred owl has been calling at the same time in the morning. At the same time of the morning this week. Do owls call for the same reason? Absolutely, the absolute same reason. They mark their territories, and of course for mate attraction. And when those two males get close to each other's territory, they both get kind of going crazy back and forth. And that's when they sound like hyenas. That's one. Then they all talk back and forth like that. But yes, they call for the exact same reasons. 4 a.m. is a great time to hear them. That's for sure.
Time for one more quick question.
I've got a black-billed magpie family in my backyard for a few years. Same with a trio of blue jays and a few crows. I've noticed that the robins don't come around anymore. Or the corvids could definitely be the reason. They steal those robin eggs, and they'll steal the babies out of the nest too. So yeah, that could very well keep those robins at bay if you got that many corvids hanging around, for sure. Thanks. We appreciate all the information. Thank you guys again. I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. And, we're on live every Thursday night, so definitely be back with us next week. And I have videos that premiere every Monday night as well. And so if you would, give us a like, give us a share, send in ideas for more programs. And until next time, let's talk birds.